Have you ever stopped to wonder if the challenges, the losses, the unexpected twists in your life are really accidents, or if perhaps they are part of a greater design that has been guiding you all along? What if every joy, every shadow, every struggle that crossed your path was not random, but carefully woven into a divine plan intended to awaken something extraordinary within you? But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. From the very first words of this timeless teaching, we are reminded of a profound truth. Nothing in life happens by coincidence. If this message has reached you now, in this exact moment of your journey, it is not by chance, it is by intention. There is a reason you are here, listening, searching, opening your heart. You are spirit, and God dwells within you. Has this ever happened to you? That subtle feeling that life is trying to tell you something, nudging you toward a deeper realization, even through pain or uncertainty. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might surprise you. So many people live believing they are victims of fate, mere pawns on a hostile board where luck or misfortune decides everything. Yet the root of human suffering is not destiny. It is ignorance of the true self. When you forget who you are, when you lose touch with that inner spark of divinity, life begins to feel heavy, chaotic, even cruel. You might ask yourself, why me? Why now? Why this struggle? But beneath those questions lies a forgotten truth. You were not created to suffer. You were created to remember, to awaken, to manifest the good that has always been within you. Think about it. How often have you felt that no matter what you do, the same obstacles keep repeating, as if you're trapped in an endless cycle? What if the reason is not out there in the world, but in here, in the way you see yourself, in the way you understand your connection with God? Imagine if suffering itself was simply the shadow cast by forgetting your divine identity. And imagine the freedom of lifting that shadow, of reclaiming your light, of realizing that nothing in your story has ever been wasted. Every moment, bright or dark, is part of a sacred design leading you back to truth. The author Emmet Fox insists that the kingdom of heaven is not some distant reward in the clouds, nor is it reserved for a chosen few. It is already within you, here, now. The separation between you and God is nothing but illusion. Can you feel the weight of those words? You are not abandoned. You are not powerless. You are not condemned by past mistakes. Within your very being lives a spark that no error can stain, no fear can destroy, no time can erase. And once you begin to see this, once you start to believe it, something begins to shift. Life opens, chains break, and a new strength rises from within. This is the invitation that unfolds before us, to stop wandering in the fog of false beliefs, to stop accepting the role of victim, and to awaken to our true essence. You are more than your circumstances, more than your struggles, more than the labels you've carried for so long. You are spirit. You are divine presence in action. And perhaps the reason you are here right now, listening, is because your soul is ready to hear these words and finally remember. Stay with me, because in just a moment, we'll explore the first of 12 powerful spiritual principles, keys that have the potential to transform the way you think, the way you feel, and the way you live. What you are about to discover may forever change how you see yourself and the world around you. And it all begins with the mind. If you're new here, and these words are already sparking something inside you, make sure to subscribe to the channel. This way, you'll always have access to content that uplifts, inspires, and guides your journey. Every video is designed to bring clarity and transformation right when you need it most. Don't miss the next one. Jesus did not come to establish dogmas, structures, or walls that separate one group from another. He came with a message far more radical and liberating, to awaken the divine presence that already lives in every human being. This truth is often hidden behind centuries of interpretations, traditions, and external rules. But when you strip away everything superficial, you find something incredibly simple. His words were never meant to trap, they were meant to set free. They were not designed to impose, but to reveal. And the revelation is this: You already carry within yourself the spark of the divine. Think about the impact of this idea. How different would your mindset be if you no longer believed that you needed an institution, a ritual, or an authority to grant you access to God? Imagine walking through life knowing that the sacred has been within you all along, not locked away behind altars or veils, but alive and pulsing in the very center of your being. It changes everything: the way you see your struggles, the way you handle decisions, the way you understand your journey. Because the hidden truth is that you were never separate from the source. You only forgot. And when you start to remember, life begins to shift. The walls of fear slowly crumble. The weight of guilt becomes lighter. And what once looked like obstacles turn into doors. It's as if, behind the scenes of every challenge, a larger script was waiting for you to open your eyes. A script where suffering is not punishment, but an invitation. A script where every moment of darkness carries within it the seed of transformation. The beauty of this teaching is in its practicality. You don't need special words. You don't need robes or rituals. You don't need to belong to a closed circle. What you need is honesty with yourself and the courage to live as if heaven was not a distant prize, but a present reality. Because it is. The kingdom of heaven is not up in the clouds. It is not postponed until after death. It is here, now, within you. The decision is yours. Will you keep looking outside for what was planted inside all along? Or will you dare to see yourself as more than flesh, more than history, more than mistakes? This is where transformation truly begins. When you realize that what you carry is not weakness but strength, not absence but presence, not exile but union. Suddenly, even the smallest details of daily life take on another meaning. A conversation, a thought, even silence itself can become reminders of this unity. You begin to sense that every breath is sacred, that every encounter has purpose, that every step of your journey is guided by something greater. And in that awareness, a new world unfolds, one not ruled by fear or separation, but by the certainty that you and God have never been apart. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic because once you allow this idea to enter your heart, you begin to see how everything changes. The way you speak to yourself, the way you interpret the world, the way you rise after falling. It is not theory, it is lived experience. It is not distant, it is immediate. The more you accept it, the more clearly you notice its impact. This is not about believing blindly, it is about recognizing what has been true all along. And perhaps the most fascinating part of this journey is that once you remember who you really are, you also begin to recognize that same light in others, even in those who seem farthest from it, even in those who hurt you. You see the divine not only in temples, but in faces, in gestures, in the ordinary. You realize that heaven was never somewhere else. It was always meant to be revealed through you. If this resonates with you, write in the comments, "This makes sense to me," because by putting it into words, you give life to the truth you've just touched, and you remind yourself that awakening begins the moment you decide to see differently. What makes these teachings so powerful is that they are not vague philosophies or poetic phrases meant to inspire for a moment and then be forgotten. They are described as laws, as precise and exact as the law of gravity, shaping your life whether you are aware of them or not. Just like physics governs the movement of the stars and the structure of the universe, these spiritual principles govern the unfolding of your inner world and the reality that flows from it. The hidden truth is that nothing you experience is random. It is all a reflection of the patterns you carry within. When you align yourself with these principles, transformation becomes inevitable, not as a burst of temporary motivation, but as a deep and lasting shift in mindset and perception. Imagine unlocking a series of doors, each one leading to a higher level of clarity, freedom, and harmony. That is the promise behind the 12 spiritual keys. They are not mysterious codes reserved for a select few, but practical revelations meant for anyone willing to listen, reflect, and apply. Each key is like a step along a journey, and together they reveal the architecture of a life lived in union with divine truth. They open spaces within you that perhaps you didn't even know existed, corners of your soul that have been quietly waiting for light to enter. It is a process that reshapes how you think, how you decide, how you relate to everything and everyone around you. At the heart of this teaching is something that feels both intimate and infinite: the Christ within. This is not a concept limited to religion or bound by tradition. It is the spark of divinity that exists in every person, eternal and pure, untouched by fear, error, or time. It is the part of you that cannot be destroyed by failure, cannot be diminished by judgment, and cannot be corrupted by circumstances. This spark is your hidden strength, your unshakable essence, and once you begin to recognize it, you see that you are far more than your doubts, far more than the roles you've been given, far more than the mistakes you've carried. To live from this awareness is to realize that you have never truly been separate from God. You are not a wanderer in an indifferent universe. You are a bearer of divine presence, a living expression of something vast and eternal. And this realization is not abstract. It has impact in your everyday life. It changes the way you interpret challenges, the way you carry pain, the way you see opportunities. You begin to notice that even the most difficult situations are not punishments, but invitations to align more deeply with truth. The mindset shifts from, "Why is this happening to me?" to "What is this revealing in me?" That single shift is a revolution. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because once you accept the presence of the Christ within, you understand that every fear, every insecurity, every false belief is nothing more than a veil covering what is already whole. The spark inside you doesn't need to be created. It only needs to be recognized. This recognition is not always dramatic. It can happen in small decisions, in quiet moments of reflection, in the way you choose compassion over judgment, or forgiveness over resentment. These choices are not just moral decisions. They are spiritual alignments that reveal what has always been there. Behind the scenes of your daily life, whether you realize it or not, these laws are operating. You attract not by chance, but by resonance. You reflect not by accident, but by consciousness. You create not from luck, but from the constant dialogue between your thoughts, your feelings, and the divine spark within you. When you truly understand this, you see that you are never powerless. Even when you feel weak, even when circumstances seem overwhelming, there is a deeper layer of truth sustaining you, waiting for you to claim it. It is in this space of awareness that the 12 keys become more than principles. They become living experiences. They guide your steps toward a state of harmony where your outer life begins to mirror the inner truth you have chosen to embrace. And once you taste that harmony, even for a moment, you begin to see how natural it is, how it feels less like learning something new and more like remembering something ancient that has always been part of you. If this speaks to something inside you, write in the comments, "I'm also on this path." By doing so, you affirm not only that these words make sense, but also that your journey of awakening has already begun, and sometimes simply naming it out loud is the first step toward living it more fully. The number 12 carries with it a resonance that goes far beyond mathematics or symbolism. Across the pages of Scripture, and woven through countless traditions, 12 emerges as a sign of completeness, of cycles fulfilled, of harmony between heaven and earth. The 12 tribes of Israel, the 12 disciples who walked alongside Jesus, the 12 gates of the heavenly city, each one echoes the same hidden truth. There is a divine order at work, and when you align yourself with it, your life begins to take on a rhythm that feels both natural and transcendent. It is not about superstition. It is about recognizing patterns of meaning that point us toward something larger than ourselves, something that has been whispering to humanity across generations. Stepping onto this path of awareness is not about dramatic gestures or instant miracles. It begins with 4 essential choices that shape your journey from within. The first is a sincere desire, because without genuine longing, there can be no transformation. Desire is the fire that ignites movement, the spark that pushes you to look beyond the surface of life and ask deeper questions. Then comes the willingness to release old thoughts, the stories you've repeated, the beliefs that no longer serve you, the labels that keep you small. These must be loosened, because you cannot carry the weight of outdated mindsets into a new state of consciousness. Alongside this comes faith, not as blind acceptance, but as a confident trust, that there is more than what the eyes see, that the invisible holds as much power as the visible. And finally, consistent practice. Without repetition, without daily alignment, even the most profound revelation fades. Practice is what makes truth part of your bloodstream, not just an idea floating in the mind. What's remarkable is that this path does not require perfection before you begin. In fact, those who feel most lost are often closest to breakthrough. When you doubt, when you question, when you wrestle with uncertainty, it may seem like you are far from light, but in reality you are standing at its threshold, because doubt cracks the surface of rigid beliefs and makes space for something new to enter. Even in moments when you feel unworthy or disconnected, divine love does not retreat. It surrounds you. It waits patiently. It moves quietly in ways you may not see until later. God never rejects, and that unconditional presence is what makes transformation possible for anyone, no matter where they are on the journey. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because when you begin to sense this unconditional love, it reframes everything. The failures that once defined you become teachers. The wounds you carried start to reveal hidden strength, and the loneliness you feared becomes a space where divine presence whispers more clearly. Behind the scenes of what looks like chaos, there is a design working to bring you back to yourself. It is not about avoiding pain or pretending life is flawless. It is about understanding that nothing is wasted, that even the shadows are part of the revelation of light. This awareness also impacts the way you see others. If divine love is unconditional, then no one is excluded from it, not even those who seem furthest from grace. You begin to understand that every soul is on its own journey of remembering, that every person carries the same spark you have discovered within yourself. This shift in perspective softens judgment, it loosens resentment, and it creates space for compassion to grow. And compassion, once awakened, has a ripple effect that touches every decision, every conversation, every moment of your daily life. So when you pause and reflect on these principles, completeness, desire, release, faith, practice, and unconditional love, you start to notice a quiet revelation unfolding inside you. It is not loud, it does not demand, it simply grows, like a seed breaking the soil. And as it grows, you begin to see that the journey has already started, that you are already walking in alignment with something greater, whether you realized it or not. If this speaks to you, write in the comments, "I'm ready to release the old." By doing this, you affirm to yourself that you are willing to let go of the weight that no longer belongs to your journey, and you give voice to the quiet decision that transformation has already begun within you. This work was never meant to be read as just another book on philosophy or faith. It is, at its core, a manual of inner freedom. Each line has been crafted not to add weight to your intellect, but to strip away what keeps you from remembering who you really are, to awaken you to the truth that you are a child of God, already carrying within yourself a spark of divinity that no circumstance can erase. When you begin to see life through that lens, even the most ordinary moment can feel infused with sacred meaning. The struggles you face become less like punishments and more like invitations, guiding you to align with the hidden truth that has always been waiting to be uncovered. That is why the journey begins with prayer, not as empty repetition, but as a conscious act of anchoring the soul in divine presence. The first prayer offered here is like opening a window in a room that has been closed for too long. It lets in clarity where there was confusion, peace where there was unrest, strength where there was weakness, and forgiveness where resentment had taken root. It is a reminder that before anything else, you are connected to something greater, and that connection is not fragile. It is the very foundation of your being. In those quiet words, the heart learns to release its grip on fear, and instead chooses to rest in trust. From that foundation comes the first of the 12 keys, the creative mind. And this is where transformation begins to take on a practical dimension. The teaching is simple, yet revolutionary. Thought is the cause of every experience. Change your thought, and you change your world. It may sound bold, almost too bold, but think about it for a moment. Every building you have ever entered, every invention that shapes your daily life, every piece of art that moves you, Every system, every word, every human creation, before it existed in the world, it existed first as a thought. Even your own story, the way you see yourself, the way you react to others, the choices you've made, all of it has been framed by the thoughts you've allowed to grow in your mind. This is not about blame, but about power. To realize that thought precedes experience is to understand that you are not merely at the mercy of circumstances. You are a participant in shaping them. Of course, this does not mean you control every detail of the external world, but it does mean that your interpretation of what happens and the energy you carry within directly influence the reality you live. Behind the scenes, your mindset is constantly building patterns, attracting experiences, filtering possibilities, and determining how you walk through life. And when your thoughts change, the ripple effect is immediate. What once felt heavy can become lighter. What once felt impossible begins to open. And what once seemed like chaos starts to reveal hidden order. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because to understand the creative power of thought is to begin seeing that nothing is neutral. Every idea you hold is a seed. When planted repeatedly in the soil of your consciousness, it eventually takes form. Some seeds grow into fear, lack, or resentment, others into courage, abundance, and love. The impact is not abstract. You can feel it in your body, in your emotions, in your relationships. A single decision to shift a thought from despair to hope can change the entire atmosphere of your day, and a consistent practice of choosing truth over illusion can change the entire trajectory of your life. It is as if your mind is an inner workshop, a sacred place where the blueprints of your experiences are drawn before they are built. To ignore this is to live as though life simply happens to you. To embrace it is to reclaim authorship of your journey. And what makes this so profound is that it is available to everyone, no matter where they are starting from. You do not need to wait for conditions to be perfect, because thought itself is the beginning of change. If this resonates with you, write in the comments, "My thoughts create my path." By doing so, you are not only reflecting on the message, but also declaring to yourself that you are ready to take responsibility for the seeds you plant in your own mind, knowing that each one carries the power to shape the life you are living. What happens outside of you is never the final word. It is the interpretation you give it that defines the quality of your experience. Two people can walk through the same storm and come out with completely different stories. One may feel abandoned and broken, while the other discovers resilience and compassion they never knew they had. The difference is not in the storm, but in the way the heart and mind choose to frame it. That hidden truth changes everything, because it shifts the focus from trying to control the uncontrollable to recognizing the power you already hold within. Life's impact is filtered through your inner lens, and it is there, in that private space of thought and meaning, where real freedom begins. This is why transformation can never be reduced to the shallow promise of positive thinking. Repeating bright phrases while your soul still clings to fear is like painting over cracks in a wall without repairing the foundation. Words without alignment collapse under pressure. True transformation asks for more. It asks for thought to be brought into harmony with divine truth. That means daring to see beyond appearances, daring to believe that love is stronger than fear, daring to trust that what looks like limitation is not the whole story. It is not about denying pain, but about interpreting it through the awareness that there is always a greater current moving beneath the surface. When thought is aligned with truth, something extraordinary happens. You no longer see yourself as a victim of chance, and you no longer fear that the future is at the mercy of chaos. Instead, you begin to sense that behind the scenes, there is an order waiting to unfold through you. Your mindset becomes a tool, not a trap, because it begins to reflect the reality of spirit rather than the illusions of fear. And in that alignment, even the smallest decision gains weight, because every thought chosen in faith and love is like a seed that carries the potential to grow into something greater than you can see in the moment. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because the image of the sculptor holds a revelation of its own. Picture a block of stone, heavy and unshaped, containing within it a form that only patience and vision can reveal. That is what your thoughts are. chisels in your hands, striking every day, whether you realize it or not. Each belief, each inner dialogue, each word you repeat to yourself is a cut into that stone. Over time, the shape of your life emerges from those choices. If you strike with fear, the sculpture reflects fear. If you strike with bitterness, it reflects bitterness. But if you strike with love, with faith, with the conviction that God lives in you, the figure that emerges is one of beauty, strength, and truth. This process is not abstract. It is alive in the way you react when someone wounds you, in the way you handle loss, in the way you decide what to believe about yourself. A single thought of compassion in place of anger can shift the entire story. A single thought of trust in place of despair can open doors you never imagined. Each choice of thought carves another detail into the masterpiece that is your journey. And the most powerful part is that you are not chiseling alone. The divine spark within you guides the blows, shaping what your limited sight cannot yet perceive. So when you step back and look at the patterns forming in your life, you begin to see that none of it is random. The shape reflects the hands that crafted it. And if you want a different form, it begins not with waiting for the world to change, but with choosing to guide your thoughts differently, to look with eyes of truth, to speak with words of light, to carve with faith rather than fear. That is how transformation happens, not all at once, but steadily, like an artist revealing what was always hidden within the stone. If this speaks to your heart, write in the comments, "I choose to carve with truth," because affirming it in your own words plants the decision deeper, reminding you that every thought you allow has weight, and that your inner chisel is shaping the masterpiece of your own becoming. Claiming your power is not an invitation to carry the burden of guilt or to point fingers at yourself for every difficulty you've faced. It is not about blame, it is about ownership. To reclaim authority over your life is to finally recognize that you are not a passive witness of fate, but an active co-creator of your journey. This shift in perspective is one of the most profound revelations you can have. It is like stepping behind the scenes of your own story and realizing that the script is not set in stone. You hold the pen. Each choice of thought, each decision of interpretation, is another line written, another possibility carved into reality. And with that realization comes freedom, because you understand that you do not need to be chained to the narrative of yesterday. You have the power to redirect the impact of tomorrow. The way this plays out is both simple and profound. Scarcity has long been a lens through which many of us look at life. Scarcity of time, of resources, of love, of opportunities. But scarcity is only a mindset, not an eternal law. When you begin to replace thoughts of lack with thoughts of abundance, something begins to move within you. Gratitude replaces complaint. Possibility replaces limitation. And the energy of your being shifts into alignment with growth rather than fear. The same is true for resentment, which keeps you bound to old wounds like invisible chains. Choosing forgiveness does not erase the past, but it cuts the cord tying you to the pain of it, allowing your energy to flow freely once again. And fear, perhaps the most persistent of them all, dissolves in the presence of trust. Trust is not naive. It is a decision to believe in the hidden truth that life is unfolding with a higher intelligence, even when you cannot yet see the full design. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because while thoughts shape the blueprint, it is emotion that breathes life into them. Thought alone is like a seed held in your hand. It has potential, but it remains dormant until planted and nourished. Emotion is the water, the sunlight, the fertile soil that activates its hidden power. When you think of abundance but still feel fear, the seed struggles to grow. But when you think of abundance and feel gratitude, excitement, and trust, that seed comes alive and begins to manifest. Emotion is not something to suppress or fear. It is creative energy, the very current that gives momentum to thought. This is why paying attention to your inner state is so vital. Words repeated without conviction are empty, but when they are felt deeply, they carry weight. Imagine declaring to yourself, "I am free," while feeling the vibration of freedom pulsing in your chest, as if the truth has already taken root. That emotion fuses with thought, turning an idea into a reality in the making. Behind the scenes, This is how transformation unfolds, not through rigid control of every detail of life, but through the alignment of mind and heart, idea and feeling, intention and vibration. Every moment becomes an opportunity to choose which seeds you will energize. When anger arises, you can breathe compassion into it and redirect its power. When doubt appears, you can infuse the thought with faith and shift its trajectory. These decisions, though often invisible to the outside world, are the ones that create visible impact over time. They are the hidden choices that shape your journey, building strength, peace, and clarity from the inside out. And when you begin to live this way, something remarkable happens. You no longer chase external validation to feel whole, because the wholeness is already radiating from within. You no longer feel trapped by what you cannot control, because you have discovered the true place where power lives, inside your own consciousness. Each thought charged with love, each feeling aligned with truth, becomes another brushstroke on the canvas of your reality. If this resonates with you, write in the comments, "I choose to feel the truth." Letting those words flow from your heart into writing is more than agreement. It is a declaration, a reminder to yourself that you are ready to give life to the thoughts that align with your highest self. Even before you begin to practice consciously, something begins to stir just by exposing yourself to these truths. Reading them, hearing them, allowing them to echo in your mind is already shifting the atmosphere within. It is as if new seeds are being scattered in the soil of your consciousness, waiting for your attention to water them. At first, the change may feel subtle, like a quiet presence that gently interrupts old patterns of thought. But beneath the surface, something far greater is happening. These words carry weight because they are aligned with divine law, and once you let them in, they start dissolving illusions you may have carried for years. The very act of listening with an open heart is already part of the transformation. That is why affirmations are more than just sentences. They are spiritual codes. When you declare, "My thoughts are divine seeds, I sow truth and reap freedom," you are not simply repeating a phrase. You are affirming a law as real and exact as gravity. Every time you say it with conviction, it is as though you are inscribing that truth deeper into your being. The affirmation becomes both a compass and a reminder, guiding your decisions, reshaping your mindset, and planting clarity where confusion once lived. Think of it as aligning yourself to a higher frequency. The words shape the direction, the feeling charges the energy, and the faith anchors the result. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic because the second key brings us to the heart of the journey, the Christ within. This is not about a distant figure in history or a symbol reserved for temples and rituals. The Christ within is your true self, the essence that exists beyond the shifting roles of ego and personality. It is the eternal presence that cannot be diminished by mistakes, wounded by time, or erased by fear. It is the hidden truth at the center of your being, and recognizing it is like waking up from a long dream, where you thought you were only human, fragile, and incomplete. To touch this awareness is to realize that you are already whole, already connected, already one with God. Behind the scenes of your daily life, the ego plays its part. It doubts, it fears, it compares, it clings. Personality adds layers of story, identity, and labels. Yet beneath all of this, there is something constant, something pure that has never been touched by error. That is the Christ within you. When you identify with it, the world looks different. The weight of judgment loses its grip, the fear of failure softens, and even the chaos of circumstances feels less threatening, because you realize that who you truly are is not defined by what happens to you, but by what has always been true, your divine origin. This recognition is more than theology. It is transformation in action. Imagine the impact of walking into every moment of your life with the awareness that you are carrying divine presence. The way you speak changes. The way you respond to conflict changes. The way you see others changes. You stop seeking validation from the outside because you begin to live from the inside out. The Christ within becomes both your anchor and your compass, steadying you when storms come and directing you toward alignment with love, wisdom, and power. This truth also reveals something vital. Separation has always been an illusion. you have never been apart from God. The distance you once felt was only the veil of false belief, the noise of the mind convincing you that you were unworthy, lost, or forgotten. But once the veil lifts, you begin to see that divine presence has always been here, as close as your own breath, as constant as your own heartbeat. To live from this awareness is to live in freedom, not freedom as escape, but freedom as the deep recognition that nothing outside of you can define your essence. And here lies the hidden power of this key. Once you recognize the Christ within yourself, you cannot help but begin to recognize it in others. The judgments you once carried start to fade, because you see through the surface of behavior and personality into the divine spark they also carry. This shift in perception has a profound impact on your relationships, your decisions, and your entire journey. It creates a ripple of compassion, a capacity to forgive more easily, and an ability to love without condition. If this resonates with you, write in the comments, "The Christ lives in me," not as a cliché, but as a conscious choice to affirm what has always been true, allowing that declaration to become a reminder each time your ego tries to convince you otherwise. I am is not just a phrase. It is the sacred vibration of identity, the name of God whispered through your very being. Every time you say, "I am," you are declaring something about your essence, whether you realize it or not. When you attach those words to limitation, "I am weak," "I am unworthy," "I am broken," you unknowingly misuse the most powerful name in the existence, shaping your reality to mirror that distortion. But when you affirm it in truth, "I am light," "I am strength," "I am one with God," you restore its original creative force, aligning your life with the higher order of divine presence. These two small words carry within them the hidden truth of creation itself. To misuse them is to write a false script, but to honor them is to let the eternal script of your spirit unfold without resistance. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because the way you define yourself is the cornerstone of your entire journey. If you believe yourself to be only flesh, only history, only a body destined to fade, fear will always lurk in the background of your decisions. Fear of death, fear of loss, fear of rejection. But when you shift your self-image from flesh to spirit, everything changes. Anchoring yourself in the awareness that you are spirit, eternal and indivisible, frees you from the prison of fear. You begin to see life not as a fragile accident, but as a purposeful expression of divine energy. This transformation in mindset is not theoretical. It impacts the way you live each day, how you face challenges, and how you relate to the people around you. It is the difference between surviving with anxiety and living with certainty. Behind the scenes of your thoughts, this self-image directs everything. The ego thrives on the narrative of flesh, clinging to appearances and past mistakes, feeding off comparison and doubt. But spirit whispers another story, a revelation that does not need to be proven because it already is. Spirit says, "You are free, you are whole, you are loved." And when you choose to identify with that voice, fear begins to lose its grip. Not because the world suddenly changes, but because you have chosen to inhabit your true nature. Your mindset shifts from defense to expansion, from insecurity to trust, from self-condemnation to divine recognition. This is where prayer takes on a new dimension. It is not about long recitations or external rituals. It is about entering the silence and remembering who you are. Prayer of inner recognition is less about speaking and more about listening. It is the quiet decision to set aside the noise of thought, to stop negotiating with fear, and to rest in the presence that has always lived within you. In that silence, the Christ within awakens, not as an abstract idea but as a living presence. You begin to sense it in your breath, in your heartbeat, in the stillness that feels fuller than any noise. It is not about asking for something you lack. It is about recognizing what has always been yours. There is power in closing your eyes, placing your hand over your heart, and simply declaring in the silence, "I am." No additions, no conditions, just the pure affirmation of being. In that moment, you are not flesh striving to reach spirit. You are spirit remembering itself. This simple practice begins to dissolve the false image you've carried, the one shaped by fear, judgment, or old wounds, and replaces it with the image of truth. It is a practice of liberation, one that grows stronger the more you return to it, like muscles that strengthen with use. This is the hidden truth. Every prayer is an opportunity not to reach outside of yourself, but to come back home to the center. Every moment of presence is a doorway into a deeper awareness of the Christ within. And every time you choose silence over noise, recognition over doubt, you step closer into alignment with divine power. If these words stir something within you, write in the comments, "I am Spirit." Let it be a declaration, not just typed letters, but a reminder to yourself that your essence is eternal and unshaken, and that every time you affirm it, you awaken more fully to the truth of who you are. Life does not suddenly become free of storms the moment you awaken to your divine identity. The winds still rise, circumstances still test you, and moments of uncertainty still appear on the horizon. But something fundamental shifts inside. You stop being a fragile boat tossed helplessly in the ocean and begin to feel like the ocean itself, vast, deep, unshaken by surface waves. This awareness does not eliminate challenges, but it transforms how you move through them. In the middle of trials, peace begins to rise, not as an escape, but as a quiet strength that holds you steady. It is the hidden truth that changes everything. When you know who you are, the storm no longer defines you. Instead of shrinking under its weight, you discover that there is a deeper power guiding you, an anchor of stillness that cannot be broken. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because the next key reveals one of the most impactful principles of spiritual life, the law of spiritual attraction. It is not about drawing to yourself whatever your mind happens to desire for a moment, but about attracting what you truly believe in the core of your being. Your life is always echoing your inner convictions. If deep down you believe you are unworthy, no matter how many words you repeat, life will reflect that hidden belief back to you. But if you cultivate the certainty that you are a child of God, created to live in abundance, harmony, and love, then that truth begins to shape the circumstances around you. This principle explains why so many people pray, but few see results. They may be asking for something, but within themselves, they are still carrying doubt, fear, or guilt. Desire is not enough. The universe, or better yet, the divine law, responds to what you are, not simply what you wish for. It is the mindset behind the words, the energy behind the decisions, the faith behind the requests that creates the magnetic field of attraction. You cannot plant a seed of fear and expect to harvest joy. You cannot sow thoughts of lack and expect to live in abundance. The hidden truth is that what you accept as real in your heart is what manifests in your life. This is where prayer takes on its true meaning. Prayer is not begging a distant God to change his mind and grant you something you lack. True prayer is alignment. It is the art of recognizing that what is good, pure, and eternal is already yours in spirit. It is the practice of tuning your inner state to the frequency of divine abundance, peace, and wisdom. When you pray in this way, you are not trying to convince God. You are reminding yourself of what has always been true. That is why Jesus said, "When you pray, believe that you have already received it." The order is crucial. You do not wait to see before you believe. You believe first, and in that belief, reality begins to mirror the truth you have embraced. Think of it like tuning into a radio frequency. You can desperately want to hear a certain station, but unless you align the dial to the exact frequency, you will only hear static. The divine works the same way. No matter how much you want health, abundance, or peace, you will not experience them if you remain tuned into fear, doubt, or separation. The act of prayer is tuning your heart to the right frequency, not with effort or desperation, but with quiet recognition. I already am. It already is. From this state, life flows naturally into harmony. And what happens behind the scenes when you begin to live from this principle is extraordinary. Situations shift. People respond differently. Opportunities open. Not because the world suddenly favors you, but because your inner conviction has changed. You are no longer vibrating with fear or lack, and so you no longer draw to yourself the reflections of those states. Instead, your journey begins to reveal paths of alignment, clarity, and expansion. The impact is not only external, it is felt deeply within, as a calm assurance that what you once chased outside was always waiting inside. If this resonates with you, write in the comments, "I attract what I believe." Let this be more than words on a box screen. Let it serve as a declaration of the hidden truth you are choosing to live by, a reminder that your inner state is the architect of your experience. Faith is more than belief. It is the living frequency that shapes the unseen into the visible. It works silently, like a hidden current beneath the surface of your life, guiding events, attracting circumstances, and weaving together experiences that match the vibration of what you hold in your consciousness. The mindset you carry, the convictions you allow to take root in the deepest part of your soul, act as signals, radiating outward, connecting you to their exact reflection. This is not guesswork, it is law, as precise as gravity. And whether you are aware of it or not, you are always tuned to some frequency, always broadcasting something into the invisible fabric of creation. The hidden truth is that what you carry within, you cannot help but manifest without. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because the way faith operates is not about waiting for something to happen in the future. It is about stepping into the embodiment of it now. If you desire love, you must choose to become love in the present moment, not someday when circumstances align, but today, through kindness, forgiveness, and genuine connection. If you seek health, you must begin to think and feel as one who is whole, grateful for every cell of your body, affirming vitality even before the symptoms fade. And if abundance is your longing, you must let gratitude flow for every provision you already have, no matter how small it may seem, embodying prosperity not as a distant hope, but as a present reality. The journey of transformation begins when you no longer chase after what you lack, but live as though it has already been given, because in spirit, it already has. Behind the scenes of prayer and affirmation lies this principle: recognition. It is not repetition for its own sake, but authority spoken with alignment. This is why the words of Jesus carried such impact. He did not plead with heaven. He declared truth with certainty. When he blessed, it was not from a place of lack, but from the recognition that the gates of heaven were already open, that divine provision was already present. That same authority lives in you, waiting to be claimed. When you speak from the Christ within, when you let faith and conviction shape your words, they stop being mere sounds and become creative forces that shift reality. Every affirmation rooted in recognition is like striking a key on the instrument of the universe. It vibrates, resonates, and calls forth its corresponding melody into your life. The impact of living in this recognition is profound. It changes the way you face decisions, because you no longer move from desperation, but from assurance. It changes the way you walk through challenges, because storms lose their ability to shake what is anchored in eternal truth. It even changes the way you see others, because you begin to affirm the presence of God in them, even when they cannot see it themselves. This is not about pretending or ignoring reality. It is about perceiving the hidden truth beneath appearances and choosing to align with that higher reality. The journey of embodying love, health, and abundance is not linear. Some days will feel effortless, others may feel like a struggle, but each moment you return to gratitude, each time you choose faith over fear, each time you affirm blessings, with authority, you are chiseling away the old patterns and allowing a new creation to emerge. Over time, this practice does not just change your circumstances, it changes you. And when you are transformed within, the world around you begins to mirror that transformation naturally, without force, without striving. If this speaks to something inside you, write in the comments, "I live in recognition." Let it serve as your affirmation, a way of anchoring this hidden truth into your journey, and a reminder that the gates of heaven open not in the future, but the moment you choose to see them within. The fourth key opens with a principle that many resist at first, yet once understood, it changes the way you see everything: the law of reflection. Your outer world, every circumstance, every repeated challenge, every person you encounter, is not random. It is a mirror, reflecting the state of your consciousness back to you. This truth is not meant to condemn, but to liberate, because once you grasp it, you stop being a passive observer of life and begin to recognize the hidden connection between your inner state and your external reality. Transformation begins when you no longer see yourself as a victim of situations, but as their interpreter, creator, and participant. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic because when you realize that persistent situations in your life are actually teachers, everything shifts. The obstacles that once felt like punishments become invitations to look behind the scenes of your own mindset, that recurring conflict, that unchanging relationship dynamic, that lingering sense of lack or limitation. They are not random misfortunes, but reflections of something within you that is asking to be seen, healed, and transformed. Life has a way of bringing to the surface what you keep hidden inside, not to shame you, but to reveal to you where your consciousness is still trapped in illusions. The impact of this realization is profound. Nothing you face is meaningless. Everything carries a message. Behind the reflections are revelations about who you are and who you are becoming. When a situation repeats itself, it is life's way of saying, "Look again. There is something here for you." If you carry unresolved resentment, you may find yourself surrounded by experiences that provoke anger. If you carry unworthiness, you may find yourself overlooked or undervalued. If you carry deep compassion, you will see opportunities to give and receive. Love everywhere. The journey is not about blaming yourself for what appears, but about recognizing the mirror and choosing to adjust what you carry within. In doing so, you change the reflection naturally, without struggle, without force. And perhaps the most striking part of this key is the way people act as mirrors. Every person who crosses your path is a reflection of something in you. The ones who irritate you most deeply are often showing you the very parts of yourself you have rejected, denied, or hidden. That arrogance you cannot stand in another may be revealing your own fear of inadequacy. That selfishness you despise may be pointing to your own difficulty with boundaries. At the same time, what you admire in others is also a reflection. Those moments of awe or inspiration are reminders of qualities that already exist in you, waiting for expression. Every encounter becomes a chance to see yourself more clearly, to recognize both shadow and light, and to grow from that. Recognition. This principle has an impact far beyond relationships. It affects how you perceive the entire world. When you see chaos, it is often a mirror of inner unrest. When you see beauty, it reflects the harmony inside you. When you see division, it echoes separation in your own heart. And as soon as you begin to bring compassion, forgiveness, and peace into your inner landscape, the outer world starts to shift, not because you forced it, but because you aligned yourself with a higher truth. The mirror has no choice but to reflect what is placed before it. The hidden truth behind this law is that life is never against you. It is always for you, showing you what you need to see so you can evolve. Every reflection is a message, every circumstance a teacher, every encounter an opportunity for growth. And as difficult as it may feel, the mirror is never cruel. It is precise, exact, and ultimately redemptive. The journey of self-discovery becomes less about controlling what is outside and more about transforming what is inside, because that is where true freedom begins. If this idea resonates with you, write in the comments, "I see the mirror." Let it be your acknowledgement that you are ready to look beyond appearances, to recognize the hidden truth in every reflection, and to use it as fuel for your transformation. Transformation truly begins at the very moment you decide to stop blaming the world, others, or even yourself for what unfolds around you. When you realize that life's challenges are not punishments, but reflections, mirrors inviting you to heal, you take back your authority. This shift in mindset is one of the greatest hidden truths you can ever uncover. It changes the entire trajectory of your journey, because instead of fighting against reality, you begin to see the behind-the-scenes impact of your own consciousness shaping events, relationships, and opportunities. It's like discovering that the script you thought was written by fate has, in fact, been authored from within you all along. That recognition is both humbling and empowering, Because it means the same inner space that once created cycles of pain can now generate peace, freedom, and new beginnings. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic because the next key is one that carries immense creative power: the power of the word. Every word you speak, whether whispered in solitude, declared in prayer, or casually thrown into a conversation, is a seed falling into the soil of your consciousness. Those seeds don't disappear. They take root, they grow, and sooner or later, they manifest as experiences, shaping the landscape of your life. This is why some traditions have always taught that words hold sacred energy. From ancient scriptures declaring that in the beginning was the Word, to the metaphysical understanding that vibration precedes form, the message is the same. Your words carry impact far beyond what your rational mind imagines. The hidden truth is that language is not just communication, it is creation. Words are not neutral. They carry intention, emotion, and frequency. When spoken with love, faith, and purpose, words become living forces of transformation. They heal wounds, restore hope, and open doors that seemed closed. Think about the difference between hearing "you are capable" and "you will never succeed." Both phrases are simple, but their impact is vast because they plant entirely different seeds in the soil of consciousness. And, if this is true when someone speaks to you, imagine the power of the words you direct toward yourself every day. Your inner dialogue is perhaps the most influential voice in your entire life. But here lies the challenge. Many people use their words carelessly, reinforcing limitation without even realizing it. They say, "I can't," "I'm always unlucky," or "nothing ever changes for me." And those affirmations, spoken with repetition and conviction, become self-fulfilling prophecies. The universe does not pause to judge whether your words were sarcastic, fearful, or resigned. It simply reflects back the vibration you broadcast. This is why it is said that careless words reinforce error. What you declare has the power to lock you into patterns of lack or open you to abundance, to bind you in fear or release you into faith. The law of the word is impartial, but it is also generous, always responding to the seeds you sow. The key, then, is to become intentional with your speech, to recognize that every phrase is either constructing a bridge toward your highest self or building walls that keep you from it. This doesn't mean pretending to be positive when you don't feel it. It means aligning your words with truth. When you say, "I am learning," you honor your process without condemning yourself. When you say, "I choose peace," even in the middle of conflict, you begin shifting your frequency toward resolution. And when you say, "I am guided," you awaken an inner certainty that draws clarity into your life. These aren't empty affirmations. They are decisions spoken aloud, planting seeds of transformation that will bear fruit in due time. Imagine the impact if you treated every word like a brushstroke painting your reality. Each sentence would be chosen with care, each declaration infused with faith, each statement carrying purpose. This is not about controlling every syllable but about awakening to the creative force that has always been yours. Just as a sculptor cannot strike marble without leaving a mark, you cannot release words without shaping the world around you. To live with that awareness is to reclaim a power many overlook, the authority to align your speech with love, with divine truth, with your deepest intentions. If this resonates with you, write in the comments, "My words are seeds." Let that be your affirmation, your conscious recognition that you are ready to choose language that blesses, heals, and opens the way to a new reality. When Jesus declared that by your words you are justified or condemned, he was not speaking of punishment from an external judge, but of a creative law already at work within you. Every word you release shapes the architecture of your reality, echoing into the unseen and returning as form, circumstance, and experience. It is not a threat, but a revelation of power. Justification and condemnation are not arbitrary. They are reflections of the seeds sown through speech. To understand this is to realize that no word is empty, no phrase disappears into nothingness. Language carries weight, and its impact is unavoidable. This is why careless words can trap a life in cycles of limitation, while words spoken with awareness can free a soul into its highest expression. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because once you see the depth of this law, the way you use speech changes forever. To consecrate your words means to treat them not as casual sounds, but as instruments of light. It means speaking with intention, allowing your voice to align with divine truth rather than the illusions of fear. Each word becomes like a spark, capable of illuminating darkness or deepening the shadows depending on how it is directed. When you begin to see speech in this way, the smallest phrase acquires new meaning. Telling yourself "I can't" is no longer harmless. It is an act of creation. Declaring "I will" becomes not wishful thinking, but the planting of destiny. Behind the scenes, the vibration of your words extends far beyond what you hear. Every sound you utter shapes energy, influences the atmosphere, and impacts not only your life, but also the lives of those around you. A sentence spoken in anger can linger like a stain, but a phrase spoken with love can heal wounds invisible to the eye. This is why many spiritual teachers insist that the tongue holds both death and life. Words can destroy confidence or ignite courage, shut doors or open them, reinforce old wounds or release forgiveness. To live unconsciously with speech is to scatter seeds without caring what grows. To live consciously with speech is to build with purpose, to recognize that each syllable is a brushstroke painting the canvas of your journey. This awareness does not mean forcing positivity or denying reality. It means choosing truth over distortion, alignment over reaction. It means allowing your words to mirror your divine identity rather than your temporary fears. When you speak with faith, even in the midst of uncertainty, you open pathways for transformation. When you choose compassion instead of judgment, you create space for reconciliation. And when you affirm light in yourself and in others, you participate in the construction of a new world, not through dramatic gestures, but through the quiet authority of words that carry truth. The hidden truth is that speech is one of the most immediate ways you can access your creative power. While thoughts shape the blueprint, words set the vibration into motion, carrying energy outward where it begins to attract, shape, and manifest. That is why the practice of consecrating your words is so vital. To dedicate your speech to truth, love, and purpose is to align your entire being with creation itself. Imagine a life where every phrase that leaves your lips carries light, where every declaration reinforces your divine connection, where every conversation becomes an opportunity to plant seeds of harmony. The impact of such a life would ripple outward, touching everything you encounter. If this resonates with you, write in the comments, "My words carry light." By affirming this, you remind yourself that language is not casual, it is creative, and when consecrated to truth, it becomes one of the most powerful tools for transformation that you possess. If you've made it this far, it probably means something in these words resonated deeply with you. That's exactly why I'd love for you to stay connected here. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the moments of clarity and insight we share together. And if you truly felt the flow of this journey, tap the like button as a way of saying, "Yes, this spoke to me." It's also beautiful to know who walks with me until the very end. So leave a comment with the phrase, "I'm with you until the end." That way I'll know this message reached you in the right moment. And before you go, there's a video right here that complements everything we've explored today. Click and continue with me. Over there, I think you'll find it opens another layer of this same path we're walking together.